you both. I'm quite happy to have questions coming in, because I think it will help the debate. And if people have got really solid, good ideas for action of how we persuade Barnet Council not to close any libraries, then we'll have done something good tonight. Barbara.
Yes, well, I'm going to pick up from what Adam was saying, because I was in one of my local libraries just on the weekend getting some books, and I had a little trouble with the check it out yourself machine. And fortunately, there was a helpful librarian there who had just been helping somebody else at the desk who had a completely different problem that needed resolution. And he came over and very quickly sorted me out. There were some signs near the machines saying these machines no longer issue receipts or are not issuing receipts at the moment. So, you needed people there to say, okay, if they don't issue receipts, what do I do now? Because they've neglected to put on the sign, please have your book stamped at the desk. For your book to be stamped at the desk, there has to be somebody there to stamp your book at the desk. And the pilot that they are very late starting up at Edgware Library in their hope to get rid of librarians and staff generally, the council is proposing that libraries will be completely unstaffed for hours. Completely unstaffed. Now you say they're risk averse. They're not risk averse, because what is the risk of having an unstaffed library? Well, I'd say crime. I'd say that was a pretty high risk. Oh, don't worry, Mrs. Jacobson, they said. We're going to have CCTV cameras there. And my answer to that is twofold. One, any petty criminal would have the brains to cover it up. And secondly, it's only going to tell you afterwards that this has happened. It is not going to prevent anything from happening. And the anythings can be theft of computers, of books, of materials on the bodies of other visitors to the library. They can be violence, they can be graffiti. So this is a council that really is inconsistent, and that's because it doesn't really think things through. When you talk about why don't we have this book, there has long been a policy in Barnet Council that the way to get rid of things is to let them run down and then claim that they're not fit for purpose. Now, I first got involved in libraries 9 years ago when they closed Totteridge Library. 11 years ago. See, I can't even remember. There's a building on the site at the moment. It's got up to the second story. It's been like that for months. But for 10 years, that site just moldered away. It was a building that had been a local library. It was in reach of 2 primary schools. They ran it down. They did not restock it. They did not keep the equipment up to date. They did not keep the fabric up to date. And then they said, it's not fit for purpose. We have to sell it. There was a meeting of local residents. Now, I know that people characterize Totteridge as a place of, well-heeled toffs, people who don't need libraries. They've got all the books they want. They do everything electronically. The meeting of the Totteridge Residents Association that was called was an extraordinary general meeting. It was on a February night. It was raining very heavily. And the meeting was in the local village hall. And it was filled to overflowing, literally. People could not get in. They were standing all around, all the seats were taken, and our then 3 counselors were seated in the front and were treated to an onslaught. There was not one person there who wanted to see that library go. And these counselors made their promises. They were recorded for posterity, so that we now have recordings of the absolute lies delivered by our local politicians, which is, what can I say, this establishment of a pattern that we have seen from then on. So they closed the library because they wanted to sell the building because they were going to get so much money for the development. Barnet Council seems famous for underselling things. They never seem to get the amount of money they could for the things that they're getting rid of that we need so desperately. And as I say, that site then stood there with the building on it for a decade. Well, nothing happened. And then boom, boom, the building came down and things started going up and then they just stopped. So we've got all those metal poles, a bunch of half-built sides of things, and nothing happening. And I've just discovered that planning law is that you must start your project in a certain period of time, but you never have to finish it. Now, this council is proposing to close libraries, to offer them to volunteers in areas presumably where they are not the well-heeled people of Hampstead Garden suburb who cheerfully told us at an event, well, we have lots of retired lawyers and librarians and accountants, so yes, we can run our library as a volunteer organization. That library is half the size of this one. I didn't see a computer. I didn't see anywhere to sit down, nowhere for students to come in and study. If they're going to offer volunteers in other neighborhoods, not even as well organized as this neighborhood, those volunteer libraries will not be staffed. It is hard to find people to do it, I'm sure. I mean, I don't volunteer at this library, but I have seen what you have done, and I know it is not easy to get a rota of people 24/7, 360 days of the year. And I doubt that 4 other groups are going to be able to do it in deprived neighborhoods, because that surely is where it would happen. So you can see it's not like playing chess with a genius. It's like playing drafts with a donkey. You can see the next move. The next move is, sorry, the volunteers couldn't keep it going. Oh, let's close and sell that building. And the other buildings, and it was a wonderful discussion we had with them, well, we're going to shrink them down to this 540 square feet. And all of them, no matter what size they are now, except Hendon Library, we're only going to cut that in half. And then we're going to rent out the empty space. Well, a lot of the libraries are now on a high street. How many businesses want to locate themselves not on a high street, not where there is footfall? And how will you organize this building? Well, we've put aside £3 million to redesign all these buildings. Instead of helping to keep up the buildings we have, we'll cut them all down. But they're all different sizes and they're all different shapes, and it won't work. And we asked, who have you been to? Who do you know? Where's your marketing? Who's going to rent them? They haven't got that far. We can tell them, no one. It's going to remain as empty as the day you take out the books and the other equipment and remove the space that people need for the purposes they need it for. So we all know this. My involvement is to go to the wonderful erudite meetings of the children education libraries and safeguarding, not really grammatical, as a committee, where they discuss, amongst other things, the future of our libraries. And I read the reports and I ask the questions, because to read a report, I tell you, any report from Barnet Council is to feel like you just followed the white rabbit down the hole. I mean, these things are so badly done. Some of them have got a little better. I think I've been complaining now for 3 or 4 years, always about the reports. So some things have happened, but they're still bad. They're full of statements that are not supported by evidence. They are not interlinked so that one thing actually leads logically to the next. And you have to probe. So you go to the committee and you probe. And they are required, if you put in written questions, to give you written answers. And that's not actually right. They don't give you written answers. They give you written replies. The words that they put down do not necessarily answer the question you asked. They make a statement related to it, but it isn't necessarily an answer. And I also go to these committees sometimes to make a 3-minute comment. Never 1 second more than 3 minutes, or they will strangle you. And
That's not quite the case, is it?
What?
I'm sure I've heard you speaking a little bit more than 2 minutes on occasion.
3 minutes, never more, because you know they stop you. Absolutely. I time my little comments to the second so that they have never got to say, all right, your time is up. I've seen them do it to people. It's most unkind. But I can speak faster when I see the little hand going. But, you know, practice, that's what it's about. It used to be 5 minutes, Dan, and I then was really dead on 5 minutes. Now, 3 minutes. You can say a lot in 3 minutes. And you can watch some of the counselors who are still awake looking at you. You can watch some of them playing with their phones. You can watch a few of them reading the papers they should have read before they came to the meeting.
You can hear them talking.
And you can hear them talking to each other, yes. So it's a very edifying experience the first few times, and then you kind of get the pattern of it, and you steel yourself and you do it. And you know that even when they nod sagely and agree with you, when it comes to the vote, there is a line, and it's called the party line. And at the moment that party line is, we're cutting the budget for the libraries. Doesn't matter what you say, we're cutting it. Well, this campaign is fighting that. We have, as Keith said, had 4 marches. There will be a 5th that will come up in our discussions. We want as many people as possible to come over the summer. We will be handing out more leaflets telling people who don't yet know about this. What is going on? This is a huge borough, and it astonishes me how many people haven't got a clue about what's happening to their libraries, partly because they're not allowed to have this information in the libraries. But when you we went to the Christmas fair and handed out leaflets and we had a petition. You stop anybody, but particularly anybody with a child, and you say your library is under threat. They're signing the petition before you can finish speaking, before you can explain all the details. People care if they know, and our job as we see it is to let them know.
Thank you very much.